Hello and welcome to day 137 of 365 days towards racial change. My name is Thomas Nyback. We're looking at black issues in America from a lot of different angles and perspectives. Oh, and it's just a free for all. We want to just get us thinking, get our minds moving in new directions here. Get away from thinking that black issues are resolved and solved from the 60s and marches and things, very valid historical points. But now that we can look back and in retrospect, hindsight, um, about the from the past 60 years or so, where are blacks now as a result of marching and all this stuff, what we're going to talk about today is, black folks, boy, we can get stuff legislated, we can get stuff on the books, we can get white folks to advocate for us, we can get everything to look right, but we still come out half starved and imprisoned and compromised. Very few of us participate in the opulence and the wealth of the richest nation on earth. So we're going to talk about some of that today. Two thoughts emerge as I go through this project. This is a personal project. You got to go all the way back to day one, the introduction. It's long and drawn out. I ramble, but I was just very on fire. I hope I have not cooled off too much as the year progresses. But the two major thoughts that are upon me, that oppress me, in my mind, is the mind of America, especially black versus white. First, the black mind is the slave mind, slavery still being passed along from generation to generation. Do we still live in an expectation of vulnerability, um, incarceration, being at the bottom of America's cross section, so representing the bottom, the foundation of that, expecting discrimination and things like that, just defaulting to so much uh, dysfunction and issues in America. That's a big problem for us black folks. Also, with that, now on the other flip side of the same coin, the mind of Americans is white power, white privilege, expectation of favor, entitlement in America. Does that get passed? Is that just being passed along? And are we just so normalized with our expectations and our views of black and white life that it's so normative and normal that even this uh, project is superfluous? I wonder, but I'm committed. I think I find proofs for my argument and the argument of a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. He's the motivation for me. I've never met him personally. It's just uh, his videos, his books are just really what I needed to really finally push me on the edge and give me a sense of urgency about America, what America is really about. A lot of good things on the surface, but America's has not done right, refuses to consistently do right by black people, and not just white people, but a lot of groups are arrayed against us, and it's going to be us we that need to come together to bring about some change. And I don't know what the us looks like yet. First we got to agree there's a problem. First off, and we're off today's a solution piece, but we need to come together on what the exact issues are and find unity there first. You know, as I go through this project, there's not enough black people understanding the issue at its base. So Dr. Anderson, though, he articulates that very eloquently. So here at day 137, I want you to look at 3 books that I read. If you don't get any book, if you only get one book, I'm going to of Dr. Anderson's, get this book. This will put you over the edge. If this doesn't, I'm going to come check your pulse. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. And we are looking in his book, PowerNomics, his national plan to empower Black America. You can find Dr. Anderson at PowerNomics.com and the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. Behind me, you see a hashtag #US2 symbol as Black women coming and finding support for each other there. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a Black Facebook. I got to check them out. I'm not a big media guy. You wouldn't know it by these videos, I'm sure, but it's not my thing, really. So I don't even know what's going on in this community. I check in every once in a while. It's time for me to get an update. Also, we have story time, though it's about time to get back, where we've started to pick up our pace in earnest on Uncle Tom's Cabin. So we got to check in on old Tom and a couple slaves. He's sold down the river now, and we saw the lives of some couples and babies being stolen and sold right out from under, and just totally disregarding Black involvement and space in the world. Some very sad circumstances. You know, slavery. It doesn't come out well for slavery for Black folks, and that's the normative piece I'm talking about. You know, it just doesn't end well when you have slaves. I think America collectively felt that. You know, they had a war, but slavery was only part of it. This economics and politics was a big part of the Civil War. All right, don't let me get started on that. We'll revisit that subject, I'm sure. We're in the PowerNomics Introduction. If you don't know your Roman numerals well, it's page XIII. That's 13 in the Roman numerals. But don't worry, I had to brush off my education about Roman numerals to get the number. So the introduction, and you know, he comes out, like I just said previously there, you know, for Blacks to get it together, we first need to come together on a problem. Is there a problem to begin with? And Dr. Anderson, he points out some circumstances, kind of that contemporary, in his day when he wrote this book. He says, you know, he talks about, Blacks being dragged, a guy being shot 40 sometimes in New York, church burnings and things like that. These are issues that could be right here in today's headlines. You know, but he wrote this back in 2001. This is 2019. Okay, 18, 19 years ago, these things were happening in America, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. He points out that some of this stuff is what we find in like Germany before the Holocaust. You know, not only some of these horrific crimes, but he notes also soft crimes, like problem getting mortgages and jobs. Gerrymandering in politics is another issue. Job discrimination from not only whites, from other groups. You know, how Blacks are, you know, we got to really work hard to climb the ladder, but you'll find us populating the menial jobs and carrying the water of other races and peoples. And racism is it's so normal now in America. Um, I'll tell you, I ride public transportation, and boy, you really see where people are at on the train. You know, they're you know protecting their items when I walk by. You know, I'm above the average size black man. I work at night, so I'm traveling at night. Oh, so many stereotypes and cliches. They just want to jump right out at me. It used to bother me to know. And there was a point a few years ago. You know, I noticed riding the train was like, you know, no matter what time of day it was, whatnot, I was always the last person that people sat next to, and they uh, they would often stand up when there was obviously an open seat next to me. I'd be having my bag on my lap, and I'd be swished over, like saying, you know, there's a seat here, but standing room only. Just the behavior of and those white folks is incredible. So this normalization of racism and how whites, other peoples, just lets it lay there. Successful blacks just lets it lay there, you know, turns their head and just goes on with their lives. Um, these the headlines today, you know, unless it's a mass shooting or something really um, horrific, you know, other things drown out these contemporary issues, you know, housing, uh, job placements, and things like that, discrimination by other groups and whatnot. All this stuff is just so normalized, and the headlines keep that pushed out, keep that pushed out. Uh, like even today, Alabama has just enacted one of the toughest abortion policies ever in the nation. You know, extreme jail time for doctors found performing abortions and things like that. You know, I'm not going to go into my feelings on the debate, but it's those kind of headlines that drown out the immigration crisis. The children are sleeping outside in the rain and stuff like that. But I got to grant, you know, it's dry. You know, we're going through a wet season right now, but it's pretty dry and hospitable down south. You know, it's not like they're freezing in North Canada and some kind of social disaster in northern Canada. You know, they're down south. I've been down there. It's pretty dry. You know, even, I mean, I get it. Actually, when I first started driving trucks, it snowed in El Paso that year. You know, very rare events. They get their weather down there, but for the most part, uh, it's hospitable. You know, with the U.S. is bringing water and stuff like that. But I don't want to waste my time on that circus down there that's taking away from the focus of black issues and problems. Also, those people spilling over the border are elbowing out black placement. And I got to say, you know, other people better look out too, you know, because I don't see droves and hundreds of thousands of Chinese coming over the border, hundreds of Koreans and Japanese, you know, not a whole lot of Asians flooding the border, you know. Blacks are just the, you know, they don't flood the border. You know, we know that there's lotteries in places like Ghana and stuff like that. But like, what do you got to be careful, huh? All you peoples better look out because Hundreds of thousands of these people are crowding. And let me just wrap this up. The point is they're elbowing out. They're supplanting the position of compromised, vulnerable groups in America, not just blacks. Blacks, we've always had a cross to bear, it seems like, but this is a warning to other groups. As a warning even to the Hispanic community here, better watch out with all these people spilling in. We got to reason correctly here about the immigration issue. Very normal. Now back to this Germany book, the pre-Holocaust. Anti-Semitism on the rise. We've got this rabbi with his fingers blown off and stuff. A lot of synagogues, a lot of places of worship, targets now. There's no sacred place anymore, no honor. You can't publicly worship your God now anymore, and it's America is the worst nation right now for that. We have little sparks and fires around the world. New Zealand, got a piece of that and whatnot, but America, it's very consistent. The places we thought were safe are now targets of white people, oppression, power, entitlement, which is interesting because white people have what more is that? Why is death of another human being an outlet to satisfy that hunger, that drive in a portion of the white community? That doesn't make sense. I'm scratching my head. I've got this little refrigerator here in my apartment. You don't see me stealing food. Wow, that's a mental problem there. So we've got our anti-Semitism. Blacks are always being oppressed, and we can think since he wrote this book, 2015, we had the Charleston, South Carolina shooting. After prayers, there's a white dude's going to sit there and watch the black people pray and stuff, and the black people, I'm sure they put on their airs and were welcoming to the strange white dude that showed up at prayer service. And after they say amen, he makes his declaration and he starts blowing people away. What? Wow, dude. That's incredible. Pre-Holocaust Germany. So we do have to watch out, there are some pretty volatile decisions being made, going on, even as I speak. Renewing tensions and being suspect, and nobody trusts each other, and the powers of branches of government aren't working smoothly lately. It's a very perilous time here in America, and black folks need to be aware, because when things hit the fan, blacks are going to be the first to be thrown under the bus if resources run out. If there's a challenge in the power structure, we're going to have a hard way to go in this thing. So we got to be careful and be mindful, circumspect in what's going on in life in America for us. Now, we don't want to spend, I know I spent most of the time complaining, and that's part of it is, there's an urgency there, but the majority of blacks don't see it or feel it because we're entertained. We live in relative comfort, and we feel like there are no problems to be addressed and things to be tended to. I would say there's a lot to be worked on in our lives big time, you know. So let's finish our last few moments here with some solutions. I want to first talk about a friend of mine. I won't mention his name, but he was the president of a black dude. I was always respected him, still do. But it's not until I got into this work here that I realized, this black man, president of a bank, a small community bank, he's financially literate in the way that I'm looking for, in the way that black people need to understand finances. And like the most indication he ever gave of kind of giving back was that, he associated himself with um, better financial minds than his, and at the association type learning, and that's valid. But you're with black people and you don't check in, educate. Never ask me my financial health. Never encourage me to maybe participate in some products at his bank. And I'm not really faulting him. I'm not angry, but see, black folks, we don't talk about what's important. We really are not as aggressive as we need be, as I know white people are when it comes to educating their children and their community about financial issues and how finances work, how money works in America. We just don't have that in the black culture. We are so conditioned to be receptors and passive participants in the scheme of things that we can't even see our blind spot. You know what I mean? It's a huge blind spot. It's troubling. Where communities, and I mean, maybe that is the like, look at the lines along which communities prosper, and you'll probably find that there's a consistent level of education within that community, especially directed toward their children on how to make it and get along in the world. We can complain about the Jews handling jewelry, law, and finances, but I bet you those are things taught in the home. We complain here about white power and privilege and things like that, but my white friends talked about these things from childhood. I know this because I asked them. They told me their experience. Their parents, instilled these things in their minds at a young age. Not so for the black family. That's very disturbing. So the first thing we need in the solution is to be honest, to be transparent, to get out of any denial that the black folks have arrived, and that we're getting on, and things are working, and blah blah blah. That's not the case. We need to stay on it, stay on it. But we kind of want to be like examples. A real quick story. I just saw some Canadian geese, and this Canadian goose is up on the roof, hatched about 5 little chicks or whatever you call them, and they're on the roof. And the wildlife is pretty brutal. Here, now listen to this story. The mother goose, had them under her wings for about a day or two. Then I guess the mother and father, because the geese travel in pairs, mother and father walk the chicks around the roof for a day, and then I come out, and right as evening is going down, they're gone. But there's one little chick left, and the chick, there's a little ledge and stuff. So these, and the roof is like 2, 3 stories up. So I'm like, I'm helpless, and I'm watching and I'm looking, and it's kind of an icy rain is falling. And oh, what a sad scene! And the chick is alone trying to jump on this thing, and the whole family is gone. I didn't see them depart, but the chicks had a hell of a first step in life. And the chick finally got up on the ledge, and it got on the ledge, and it ran off the ledge. And I just saw it tumbling in space into this overfed. I hope I had a good landing. I'm trying not to go over to the area where I know it fell. I might just see it there. Anyway, but that's how blacks do things. You know, we just keep going on like we're being an example, but we're not giving commentary. We're not giving mentorship. We're not giving instruction. We're just brutal like the wildlife. You know, we're just being an example. We've grown through an experience. Just follow us. But the other peoples and races aren't doing that. They're talking to each other. Blacks aren't doing that. I might even go all the way back to meritorious manumission. Look it up. Very important. So blacks, we know we need to understand the Federalist Papers, Federalist and Republican Democratic entities way back, as the bonds of slavery kind of came off through various levels of emancipation. There's a lot of mentions, decrees, and documents giving more and more rights and liberties to black people, but rarely followed through. Black people need to understand some of this constitutional history going on in America. We need to understand Freedmen's Bank, how blacks were duped and fooled into investing. It was the right concept, but these white folks just robbed them, and there was no recourse. We got to have some payback to families represented that were ripped off by the Freedmen's Bank. We need financial literacy. We need a lot of stuff. The point is, in this introduction into Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America, his book PowerNomics, is that look, we gotta be honest about the problem first, right? I'm a guitar player, but if I lose an arm, I'm not going to be that effective as a guitar player. But if I get up on stage in front of thousands of people, missing an arm, saying I'm getting down on guitar, I'm a little, something's not right mentally there. I'm missing something. And black people, we just move right along. We just keep going right along, right on out the door, as though, but without any recognition of our real condition. We need to recognize our true condition, our true state position in America. Then we can go. Everything else is fluff and air, and we're just entertaining, and we are supporting other groups hostile to black growth, to black wealth, to black success. Not a good picture when we sober up and look realistically at the challenges facing us here in life. Listen, our time is over. We're going to be in and out. I'm not going to do a series or anything, but we will focus on some of the solutions, processes needed to bring blacks back from the brink. My name's Tom Lins Nyback. Day 137 out of the way. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.